Hey guys, how's it going? It's Untitled here. Welcome back to another Destiny video. Today guys, in this video, I'm gonna be telling you one of my favorite stories from the Destiny lore. I have talked about this story before in this channel, but since I talked about that story, there have been more things added to the story, and now we actually have a conclusion. And this is the story behind the last word. I'm gonna be breaking this story into parts, so it's just not one big video. Alright, so now I said that, let's get right into the video. The noble man stood, and the people looked to him, for he was a beacon, hope-giving form, yet still only a man. And within that truth, there was a great promise. If one man could stand against the night, and so could anyone, everyone. In his strong hand, the man held a rose, and his aura burned bright. When the man journeyed on, the people remember. In his wake hope spread, but the man had a secret fear. His thoughts were dark. A sadness crept from the depths of his being. He had been a hero for so long, but pride had led him down a sorrow road. Slowly, the shadow's whisper became a voice, a dark call, offering glories enough to make even the brightest light wonder. He knew he was fading, yet he still yearned. On his last day, he sat and watched the sun fall. His final thoughts, pure of mind if not body, held to a fleeting hope, though they would suffer for the man he would become. The people would remember him as he had been. And so the noble man hid himself in the darkness no flesh should touch, and gave up his moral self to claim a new birthright. Whether this was choice or destiny is a truth only known to fate. In that cool evening air, as dusk was devoured by night, the noble man ceased to exist. In his place another stood, same meat, same bone, but so very different. The first and only of his name, the sole forebearer and the last descendant of the name Yor. In his first moments as a new being, he looked down at his rose and realized for the first time that it held no petals, only the jagged purpose of angry thorns. I'm writing this from memory, some mine but not all. The facts won't sync with the reality, but they'll be close, and there's no one who could say otherwise. So, for all intents and purposes, this will be the history of a settlement we call Palamon, and the horrors that follow all its too brief peace. I remember home, and stories of a paradise we'll get to see someday. Of a city shining even in the night. Palamon didn't shine. What if a sanctuary of a sort? We settle in the heart of a range that stretched the horizon, wooded mountains that shot with purpose towards the sky. Winters were harsh, but the trees and peaks hid us from the world. We talked about moving on, sometimes, striking out for the city, but it was just a longing. Drifters came and went. On occasion they would stay, but barely. We had no real government, but there was a real law. Basic tenets agreed upon and eventually overseen by Magistrate Locan. And there you have it. No government. Until there was. I was young, so I barely understood. I remember looking as a hard-working man who became broken. Mostly, I think he was sad. Sad and frightened. As his fingers tightened on Palamon, people left. Those who stayed saw our days became grey. Locan's protection from the fallen, from ourselves, became dictatorial. Looking back, I think maybe Locan had just lost too much of himself, his family. But everyone lost something, and some of us had nothing to begin with. My only memory of my parents is a haze, like daydream, a small light, like the sparks of their souls. It's not anything I do on. They left me early, taken by dregs. Palamon raised me from there, the family I called my own. Cared for me as if I was their natural born son. And life was good, being the only life I ever knew. My judgment is skewed, and it wasn't easy. Pocketed by a loss as it was, but I would call it good. Until, of course, it wasn't. And the two men entered my world. One a light, the other the darkest shadow I will ever know. The man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, my third father, and quite possibly my closest friend, came to Palamon from the south. I was just a boy, but I'll never forget his silhouette on the empty trail as he made his slow walk into town. I never seen anything like him. Maybe none of us had. He said that he was only passing through, and I believed him. Still do. But life can get in the way of intent, and it often does. I can picture that day with near perfect clarity. All of the details though, every nuance, every moment. The memory that sticks in my mind is the iron on Jaren's hip, a cannon that looked both pristine and lived in, like a relic of every battle he ever fought. Hung low at his waist, a trophy and a warning. This man was dangerous, but there was a light about him, a pureness to his weight, that seemed to hint that his hire was something earned, not carelessly given. I'd been the first to see him as he approached, but soon most of Palamon had turned out to greet him. My father held me back as everyone stood in silence. Jaren didn't make a sound behind his sleek racer's helmet. He looked just like one of those heroes in the stories. And to this day I'm not sure, one way or the other, if the silence between the townspeople and the adventurer was born out of fear or respect. I like to think the latter, but any truth I tried to place in that moment would be of my own making. I was waiting for Magistrate Loken to arrive and make an official greeting. Patience got the best of me. I shook free of my father's heavy hand and made a short sprint across the court, stopping a few paces where this new curiosity stood. A man unlike any other. I stared up to him, and he lowered his attention to me, his eyes hidden behind the thick tilted visor of his headgear. My sight quickly fell to his sidearm. I was transfixed by it. I imagined all the places that weapon had been, all the wonders I had seen, the horrors I had endured. My imagination there from one heroic act to the next. I barely registered when he began to kneel, holding out the iron as if it was an offering. And my eyes locked onto the piece, mesmerized. I recall turning back to my father and seeing the look on the faces of everyone I knew. There was a worry there. My father slowly shaking his head as if pleading with me to ignore the gift. I turned back to the man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, the finest hunter the system may have ever known, one of the greatest guardians to ever defend the traveler's sight. And I took the weapon in my hand, carefully, gently, not to use, but to serve, to imagine, to feel its weight and know its truth. That was the first time I held last word, but unfortunately, not the last. Anyways guys, that is the end of this first part. As always, I hope you have enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your suggestions in the comments below on how I can make these videos better. And I'll see you guys in the next one.